Do you remember what you were doing in July of 1991? I don't, because I was a toddler, but Capcom was busy releasing the Little Mermaid for Nintendo Entertainment System. So what kind of game is it? Who is it for? And most importantly, does it hold up over 30 years later?
Retro Life Reviews.
Now let's dive into the good, the bad, and the nostalgic. While I've heard it said that this game follows the plot of the movie it's based on, as a kid who was obsessed with The Little Mermaid, I would call it loosely based on the movie at best, and truthfully, I think it's more of an adjacent, simplified retelling. I'm not going to get deep in the weeds on this one. You could argue they simplified the language as much as possible to get the point across quickly, but none of the details are present in the game. Aside from Ursula, Flotsam, and Jetsam being the baddies, there really isn't anything that feels like a callback or plot from the actual movie. Ariel's voice is never mentioned, nor is Vanessa, and at the end, Eric never joins the battle. Oh, and also, Ursula just makes all the fish in the ocean evil. So, yeah, everything, even cute little fish and crabs, hate you and want you to die. So you tell me in the comments, do you think it's more adjacent, or do you think it follows the movie? In this action title, Ariel can swim, pick up and throw shells, stun and capture enemies in bubbles, and throw them. Pretty classic Capcom mechanics. The game is mostly linear, but unlike Capcom's Chippendale from a year earlier, it does give you the added ability to backtrack as needed, which can be helpful on occasion to reset enemies and items. There's one dungeon-esque level that breaks the mold, but we'll get into specifics on levels later. Ariel doesn't really have any special moves or abilities in this game, but she can dig through sand by flipping her tail, collect items that give her power-ups, and jump out of the water to flop across small pieces of land. One of my favorite things is picking up a seashell and using it like a shield to demolish bad guys coming at you. Sure, you can throw the seashells, but why throw it when you could use it as a battering ram and plow right on through? Your objective in this game is pretty simple. Track down and take out Ursula. You'll achieve this by beating the 5 levels before facing Ursula in a final boss battle. 4 of the 5 levels have the same basic structure. Relatively linear gameplay where you navigate through enemies to make it to a boss battle at the end of a level. The manual refers to these levels as mazes, but level 5 is the only level I consider a maze. There is really only one directional option of travel in levels 1 through 4. Sure, it may be up, right, or down, but that's it, one option. Level 5, however, is actually a maze. You have to go through doors that can change where you end up, even when backtracking through the same door. It really is a fun mechanic in the case of this game, as it's still a pattern that you can learn and a rather fun way to navigate the ocean world without becoming a frustrating mess of randomly generated dungeons that occurs in a lot of other retro games. Throughout the levels, you can capture and throw enemies to find hidden objects, dig up shells to use to open chests, and collect pearls from the chests that give you power-ups. Pink pearls, or red according to the manual, give you super strength. 1 pearl lets you push barrels and catch small bad guys with 1 flip of your tail instead of 2. 2 pink pearls gives you the ability to push small rocks and bubble larger enemies, and 3 pink pearls makes captured enemies sink faster and allows you to push boulders. The blue pearls, or green according to the manual, give your bubbles more range with each pearl that you collect. Don't die though, because if you die, your pearl count is back to 0. So, more pink pearls means the ability to move objects that will help you open more chests to collect more pearls, and sometimes an extra life. This is why the ability to backtrack to reset items and enemies can be super helpful. Sometimes, if you waste your shell on an enemy, you can backtrack for another to open a chest, or reset bad guys to capture repeatedly to get more hidden objects. Keep in mind the shell you need to open a chest might be past the chest and backtracking is necessary to open it. I also have to mention in some cases, like opening the wrong chest, backtracking simply won't help and you'll have to play the level again with your newfound knowledge to get the right chest. While the manual says you can uncover more hearts, in my 2.5 hours of gameplay, I never found one. Ariel can take 3 hits before losing a life. I was able to collect a few extra lives in the form of cute little Ariel dolls, as well as several forks and pipes, which give you bonus points at the end of the level that don't seem to actually do anything. While pearls do offer power-ups, they aren't really necessary to beat the game, and I found that in my quest to collect them, I often got hurt, and it just wasn't worth it. The difficulty level of this game feels uneven at times, with some of the earlier battles feeling more difficult than later ones. It really comes down to how you play the game, but in the overall world of retro games, it's an easy game that anyone can enjoy and almost anyone can beat. I found that trying to be a completionist in the game made it far less enjoyable and far more time-consuming than just swimming on through and rolling into the battles YOLO style with no power-ups. Level 2 is pretty much the most frustrating part of the game. At the end of the level, you face Flotsam and Jetsam while they pop out of holes on the side of a ship and crabs fall on you from above. While the crabs are the cutest thing in the game, they can and will cut you.
Hey man, I cut you up so bad, you're gonna wish I don't cut you up so bad.
This battle took me an embarrassing number of tries to beat before I got the hang of avoiding the crabs and dodging getting hit by both Flotsam and Jetsam when they decided to swim across the screen or pop out of a hole. For a relatively simple game, this battle is a lot to keep track of on screen at once, and is the only battle in the game where you have more than one primary foe to take down. For me, this made it the hardest battle in the entire game. I got really good at grabbing shells throughout the level and using them to ram my way to the end of the level as quickly as possible so I could play this battle over and over again. Even so, in my 150 minutes of gameplay, I spent 121 of them on level 2. Ouch. That is embarrassing. I think I'm gonna have to play through it again to get that stain off my non-existent gaming record. Once you fry Flotsam and Jetsam, everything after level 2 is a cakewalk. It took me a whopping 20 minutes to conquer the entire rest of the game, even though I had to go through level 3 and level 4 twice each to beat them. If you're gonna play this game and haven't before, I do recommend giving the manual a quick read-through before you play. I didn't, and I must say it would have been helpful. There are plenty of useful tips and reminders inside, most of which I've mentioned over the course of this review, but there is one tip on their fishing tips list, the very last tip, that I think is a bit of a spoiler and should be reserved for those cases where you're just getting frustrated. So maybe avoid that last tip unless you find yourself stuck on level 5. Capcom knows how to make games, and better yet, they know how to make Disney games. This might be easier and more simple than most Capcom titles, but the visuals and sound do not disappoint. This game is pretty, from masterfully crafted 8-bit coral reefs to colorful and very sharp-looking bosses. Every detail is covered. They nail the sunken ship aesthetic and manage to make the ice stage look and sound slippery. Ariel's sprite is cute, albeit simple, and the little Ariel dolls you collect for extra lives are adorable. Simply put, all of the stages are beautifully crafted, and the cutscenes are executed well, but I really have to give extra shoutouts for the bosses. Ursula looks amazing in both forms, Flotsam and Jetsam are spot-on accurate, Glut the shark looks great, and even though they aren't canon, the walrus and the soldierfish are so cute, you don't really want to kill them. I have to admit, between the opening screen of the game and the end scene of the game, I spent a good 5 minutes just jamming out to the beautifully done chiptune rendition of Under the Sea. While the rest of the music in the game isn't quite as iconic, there isn't a piece of music that I don't like. The cutscene music throughout the game feels like pretty standard stuff, but once you get into the levels, the music has personality to match each stage. Levels 1 and 2 give Fun Ocean vibes and are straight up the sounds of my childhood. They were melted into my 5-year-old brain, and that now 35-year-old brain still considers them total jams today. The music for levels 3 and 5 are super upbeat and just feel good. You can be getting wrecked by a blowfish that's spitting bones at you, and it feels less terrible because the music is just so dang happy. Level 4 probably has my least favorite music of the bunch, but truthfully, there really isn't anything bad to say about it. The boss battle music for standard bosses and the final boss are just the right amount of intense to get you hyped up without stressing you out. Maybe I'm biased, but I love the music in this game. I think my personal history with this game plays a part in how much I like it. I played this game for the first time when I was 5 years old. Little baby Rosie plopped in front of the CRT, sharp-edged square controller in hand. Ah, nostalgia. That's the stuff. While playing through it as an adult, I kept thinking to myself, wow, I was better at this game at age 5 than I am now. But after taking some time to think about it further, I realized I'm pretty sure I played the first 2 levels over and over and over as a kid, and watched my older brother play the game all the way through for me, which happened with a lot of games that I thought were too hard or too scary back in the day. So a round of applause for my brother who played games with me and for me. Mad big brother points. I consider this game easier than most NES titles, which, depending on your gameplay style, could be a good or bad thing. If you enjoy The Little Mermaid, you'll enjoy this charming tribute to the film, and if you enjoy retro gaming, it's another Capcom title that is definitely worth a playthrough. Most retro gaming fans can cruise through this game in about an hour, but if you're determined to grab up all the power-ups and collectibles, plan for it to take a bit longer. If you're stubborn like me and refuse to look at the manual, you're welcome, because this review gave you the tidbits you need to succeed without it, and you're that much less likely to spend 80% of your time on level 2, like I did. So how does this title stack up? On the Rosie rating scale from hot garbage to top shelf, The Little Mermaid for NES comes in at a solid hidden gem, 7 out of 10, worth playing, even with a few flaws. And that is what I have to say about The Little Mermaid on NES. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this review, give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe for more. Let me know in the comments what your favorite retro games are. I might just play and review them, but be careful, because I reserve the right to call your favorite games
hot garbage.
I'll see you at the next Retro Game Gauntlet, held live on Fridays at 4 p.m. Eastern on the Arcade Athlete YouTube and TikTok, and the Run Run Rosie Twitch. Until next time, happy gaming! Hey everyone, it's Rose, the Arcade Athlete. I know I said I was only going to review the winners of the Game Gauntlet, and you're over there saying, but the Little Mermaid didn't win! What can I say? I make the rules, I break the rules. Don't worry, Chippendale still holds the crown and still gets a review. Consider this one a participation trophy of sorts. After all, not all the Gauntlet losers are hot garbage. So I hope you enjoyed this extra review, and I'll see you next time.